Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. It gets lower. Welcome everyone to the Lower Gwinnett Township Board of Supervisors regular public meeting for Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. The Board of Supervisors did meet in executive session on February 25th, 2026 and March 3rd, 2026, and prior to tonight's meeting for supervisor training and to discuss matters of potential litigation related to zoning and stormwater management, and a lease on township property, emergency preparedness, and personnel. I'm going to start off with a presentation from our fine folks at Folkways. Turn it over to Ms. Pianza.
Good evening.
Evening.
Is this on? Good evening. Kristen Pianzio from Hamburg, Rubin, Mullen, Maxwell, and Lupin. Nice to see you. I'm here representing Folkways. I have Bob Jordan from Woodrow and Associates with me, and Frank Mandy, who's here as a representative of Folkways. We have on the screen for you a couple of slides to go through. If you remember, a little while back, we were in front of you with a conditional use application to do some pipe work behind the existing fitness center on the property so that we could prepare for the expansion of the fitness center, which is why we are here tonight. That pipe work has been done in that area, and lo and behold, we are here for that one-story addition to the fitness center. We did appear in front of your planning commission back in February. We stand before you with a recommendation for approval. We have review letters from your consultants. What's on the screen is the campus map. As you know, Folkways is a large campus. It has frontage along Sumneytown Pike, which is at the bottom of the screen. Along the left is DeKalb. Along kind of up at the top is Meeting House Road, and along the left is Evans Road. And in the center in yellow is our proposed project. To the left of that is Abington House. That's our skilled care building. Can we go to the next page, Jamie? So this is a zoomed in version of the project itself. You can see in the gray around the fitness center is a trail system that goes around it. That's where the fitness center expansion is located, and where that trail is where we got permission through that conditional use application. There is a bridge there to expand the internal trail system around this expansion. Al Comley, your fire marshal, reviewed this plan and had some comments. He wanted more room along this internal drive as a pull-out area for his ability to locate his fire truck in the event of a fire. So we worked with Al. Al actually came to the planning commission meeting. We came up with a plan to provide that pull-out area. He has reviewed that draft plan and is satisfied with the removal of 3 spaces, providing the pull-off area, adding a new fire hydrant there along the side, and an FDC next to the building would satisfy him. Next plan, please. So this is that. Actually, along the side there, you can see that pull-off area is provided. And obviously, this would be subject to Al's review and approval. That is fine with us. We only have 5 waivers to discuss with you this evening. I'd like to hand out the waiver letter, if that's okay, and talk about those. You hold this. Oh. Thank you.
This is a revised version.
Yes.
Oh, as of today?
As of today.
Yes, it is a revised waiver letter. We did have conversations. Next plan that we'll get right to that. We had conversations with the Planning Commission. Folkways is very proactive in tree planting. The Planning Commission said, boy, every time you plant a tree, you should keep a tally. And quite, they do. They have quite a a list, an 11-page list of every planting in the last 2 years is kept on file. And so what we did was provide the tally on this plan. I have handouts for you if you want to see it. Up at the top shows the plants that have been, the trees that have been planted, as you can see, fall 2024, fall 2025. And the numbers of them in yellow is the location of that reforestation along the interior perimeter road. There was a calculation made and there's an overage. There is a remaining 77 plant equivalents as a credit for future projects. So we did get rid of that waiver for the replacement trees. Because of this, we are keeping track. The township asked us to. We are doing that. So we did get rid of that waiver, and that's why you see a revision in the waiver list. So moving on, the first waiver request is for curbing and the right-of-way along the street frontages. We always tackle this every time we do a project because we always have these frontages because we've merged all these parcels together. So we're asking for that waiver.
Just before you move forward, this isn't attachment B in the board packet. This is a different.
The waiver list, is that what you're saying?
The pictures that are depicting the counts, is this different than the attachment B we have in the board packet?
Yeah, she just provided this tonight.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Could you provide the handouts on the tree count? I
Yep.
think you said
Yeah,
you-
that's
I have that. Hang on.
Yeah, yeah.
And did our engineer get to see?
Yes. We went over this with Ed Brown with
Okay.
the calculations, and he was satisfied that we met the calculations and could take that waiver off. Planning Commission said the same thing, asked us to remove the waiver request.
Thank you.
Keep in mind, people who include one of the three, right, they carry you. Okay. So this discussion was had at the Planning Commission. They recommended that we review this with the township engineer and remove the waiver if he was satisfied that we met the calculations. We have done that between the Planning Commission and this meeting, and that's why we produced this exhibit so we could show you as well that we meet those calculations.
Can you just give us a summation of the total amount of trees?
Yes, if you look at the top,
Yeah. You're giving us the breakdown of the type of tree.
yes. And if you look in black, in the small, it says folkways underneath the
Yep.
colored red,
Mhm.
you'll see the number of trees. They calculated the trees removed for the pipe project and for the fitness center. That was one of the things they wanted us to check. And our landscape architect did those calculations. And if I can read it,
This is 20. So it's saying that the fitness center project requires 20 replacement trees?
yes, we were required 20 replacement
So
trees.
97.5 minus 20 is 77.5 remaining equivalents available to utilize for future projects. So I'm just wanting the clarification of, are you articulating that the trees planted in 2024 and 2025 are going towards this? Because it says understory and evergreens counted at 2-to-1 ratio for shade tree equivalent of 97.5 shade trees or equivalent planted in 2024 and 2025. So what you're
Correct.
articulating is that the plantings that you did in preceding years should count towards
Yes,
the requirements.
yes, with overage.
Have we historically done that? Mr.
Yes,
Engineer?
for folkways in particular, we have done that. You need a microphone? Oh, yeah.
No, I have a microphone. I believe we have done it per what Kristen said, but I just think in general, the practice makes sense because if they had removed trees prior to doing the project, we would look back and count those trees as being removed as part of the project. So in my eyes, if they're planting ahead of a project, it would sort of fall under the same sort of criteria.
How far would you look back in time? I see we've got like a 2-year look back.
Yeah, I think
What-
I believe the ordinance has a 5-year look back.
So in totality, 100, wait a minute, how many total trees are being removed?
Is it 20 total for the removal?
Yeah, it was 20.
20 total.
20 total.
27.
And so 97 and a half have been planted over the 2 years. How do you get a half a tree?
They use equivalents. They use bushes. So many bushes equal a tree.
Okay. So roughly 97 trees have been planted. It's not square, it's not the inches, it's not the,
There's a combination of shade trees, understory trees, and evergreen trees. And they do a calculation, not every tree, it's not
Count
an
as a
equivalent
full.
tree to tree, yeah.
I feel,
And at the end,
I don't know if these are native trees or not. I looked down to see,
Oh, I'm sure they are.
are they?
The
Ed, you said Ed went over this? with
Yes.
you?
Ed and Rachel, our landscape architect, walked the property.
Oh, and they looked where the trees were
Absolutely.
and
They
were
did the
satisfied?
perimeter, they did the perimeter for the street trees, and then they did this interior for these plantings as well. The Folkways residents are vigilant about
Yeah.
trees, so I think they are more strict about the tree replacement and tree plantings than your code is. So I'm comfortable saying that they are sure that these are natives.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just looking to see if, I didn't see that comment from anybody on the planning commission either.
Oh. I have it in my notes.
It does
Update
say-
tree.
It does say remove the waiver request.
Yeah. They said
But it
update
also says fill in the gaps along the frontages.
if
Yeah.
necessary. Yeah.
That was gonna be my next question, because that's included in the engineer's letter.
Yeah. It said, well, they said walk with Gilmore, fill in the gaps along frontages if necessary.
Doesn't say if necessary.
That's what my notes say.
Yeah, so
Update
it's
tree
standing
removal.
A little bit on the planning commission's recommendation.
We've communicated with Ed after that walk, and he said that he was satisfied there was no room for further street trees.
So number 3 says applicant will review with Gilmore an opportunity to address trees to fill in the gaps along the frontages.
Yes, there are no gaps along the frontages was the conclusion.
But is the only letter that we have from Gilmore, the letter included in our packet? Do we have an updated letter based upon, I don't see it, that's why I'm asking.
we just received this today, so there is no updated letter on it. We have been through the exercise of walking the frontages before with previous land developments, and I was on those walks, and I do not recall a lot of space to put additional street trees. It is a very densely planted like frontages, and if it isn't, then there are street trees that meet the requirement, but we can certainly review this and provide a letter to the board
Okay.
if requested.
Ed did meet out there though.
Right, that's
And
what I was
that's
gonna
what they did. They did what,
Is there
they
a way where
require.
we can treat this like we've done in the past where we can conditionally approve it so that, assuming it's to the satisfaction of?
This is just a presentation. We
Engineer.
don't have anything to approve.
Oh,
Well, we,
They're just doing the presentation. So we can make the request of additional information afterwards.
Normally, the resolution would say compliance with all review
Yeah.
letters. That's why it might be helpful. to have
another letter, yeah.
Another letter.
Okay.
or we could have another letter, or we would accept the condition that we satisfy that requirement to the engineer's satisfaction.
Rather have it.
Okay, whatever works.
We can provide a letter fairly quickly.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. You can move.
No, that's fine. Let's. Next is sidewalk, a waiver request from sidewalk. Folkways has an extensive trail system through their property. I'm going to hand you an exhibit. Oh, thanks, Mamie. I'm sorry, the brown that shows the trail on this plan is hard to see. You have to get a little close to it. But there are connections. It is open to the public. You can get onto the trail through the entrance off of Town Pike. There are 2 connections off of Meeting House along right near where DeKalb Pike comes in, and then up further by Turnberry. And that trail system meanders through the entire property. It was requested that Folkways provide an easement along the Town frontage, similar to what we did for the Gwynedd Mercy High School along Evans, to provide that easement for a future trail in the event there's some road improvement along Town. I mean, as of today, it's not really appropriate to do that, but we could discuss with the board. We don't have the authority to do that. The board would have to vote to grant that easement, but we would discuss that with them between now and your next meeting so that we could say, yes, I'm going to recommend that we do that. Staff has said 15 feet would be appropriate beyond the ultimate right-of-way line. That sounds fine to me, but I don't have the authority to say yes tonight, but I could get that between now and your next meeting.
I think that's a good idea. I would just I think that this board has taken pretty concerted efforts to, as you know,
Yes.
try and get those easements so that in the future, we will hopefully have a fully connected township.
Yep.
So I would just, when you're having those
Right.
conversations.
And in the meantime, you can cut through our property and safely move around. Yep.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next has to do with installing monuments along the property corners. It's a partial waiver. There appears to be adequate markers in the field and on the plans. I don't think anyone has an objection to that. Next has to do, this is a common waiver with your requirement to have an 18-inch reinforced concrete pipe for the storm water system. We're proposing 12-inch HDPE. I don't think anyone has a problem with that. And lastly is the request that you consider preliminary and final at the same time. We feel that we've provided the information necessary for both requirements. And that is it.
Is there any, I know that, I mean, the 18 inches of reinforced concrete pipe, is there any reason why that is the requirement as opposed to the 12-inch that they're recommending?
The ordinance is really written for like roadway construction. And so if you were extending a roadway, you'd be putting inlets along the side of it, and you would want the minimum pipe size to be 18 inches in that instance, because there's a considerable amount of drainage to it. But their drainage is just to a small rain garden, and so a 12-inch pipe is adequate. So it would sort of not make a lot of sense engineering wise to make them install a bigger pipe.
Okay. I did have questions around a topic that I didn't really see expanded on in the letter. And it's really around the interconnectivity of your fire alarms. I think that we've noticed, I think from our fire marshal and from reports of I don't want to say false alarms, but alarms going off that needed to become and reset, an increase as it relates to the volume of reports that are coming out of Folkways. Is there anything that can be done to mitigate that? Are you aware of that? And I know I'm asking you this on behalf of Folkways, that this is a concern and this has been something that we've encountered, I think, over the past few years. It's increased exponentially. So we're looking to try and figure out the source and if there's any way that we can mitigate that.
I wasn't aware that there was a series of false alarms at Folkways. I know that there's an ongoing discussion with Al. It's always been his passion to get that system upgrades as we turn over buildings. As people move out and they renovate, then we're able to put those systems in where they can locate the fire based on the alarm instead of them looking around the campus. I know that's always been a concern, and Folkways is committed to doing that. Anytime they do a new project, they put the new systems in. I wasn't aware of the false alarm
I'm
issue.
going to call up our fire marshal,
Yeah.
Mr. Conley. Would you be comfortable? I don't want to speak on your behalf, but I know that it's been brought to my attention.
I'm here. for years, we've had some issues with the fire alarm that will not allow reporting by individual device, which is today's standard.
Mhm.
And it really requires that there be a fundamental upgrade of the base system, which is probably, I don't know what it would cost today. I haven't looked into that, but it's a substantial cost. And as Kristen noted, as they've been going along, they've been doing the new buildings so they can fit into that system. But at the moment, that system can't transmit that information to dispatch.
Okay.
So I keep putting this in there with the hope that the project will come along that can bear the expense of doing the new base system. And part of my reason for putting it here was to make sure that I kept that on the record.
So just, and I want to make sure, because I'm glad that you came and are here to correct the record. It's not that you're getting an alert saying somebody's smoke detector went
No,
off
we
because they're
haven't.
burning food or something like that. It's a legitimate call, but the issue is you can't make the
Some are
determination.
and some are not.
Okay.
And I think that to be fair to Folkways, they have been trying to upgrade the interconnection between their buildings, going from copper wire to fiber optics, because the copper is much more sensitive to ground faults from things like lightning strikes in the area that induce current. It's just that that campus has had a somewhat higher proportion of calls based on the overall. And, we're dealing with a system that's getting really quite old and needs to be, frankly, replaced.
Okay. So in addition to, so there's a higher proportion of calls coming from Folkways, I guess, because of the density of the population that lives there potentially. In addition, the system itself is not able to give you the accurate information you need when you're actually going out. Is that accurate?
Which is that?
Is when you guys are going out, is it that the system is not able to transmit accurate information as to the location?
Yeah, without getting into the weeds on on fire alarms, they generally operate where they have a certain number of connections, which they call points.
Mm-hmm.
And in the case of what Folkways has to do right now, is that they have to combine these inputs from different devices so that what goes out is kind of a combination of things. It is not the exact device.
Okay.
Today, a fire alarm system would tell you the device and where it is.
Gotcha.
And because that system is too old to do that, it's not able to.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's kind of the short version.
No, I appreciate that. I don't know, are there any additional questions on this topic from the board? In your estimation, does it present a health and safety risk to the residents of Folkways not having the system upgraded?
I don't know that it is particularly affecting their immediate safety.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that the alarm still goes out. First responders still respond to the location. It's just that at the moment, when that goes out, it goes out as 1120 Meeting House Road. And from there, somebody has to tell them where it is.
Gotcha.
And we're trying to get to the point where A, we would at least know the building, and then B, the location in the building.
Big campus.
So, I mean, I realize that at some point it might be a little overstepping what land development is
Mhm.
intended to cover, but I'm trying to keep that on the front burner so everybody knows that at some point this has to be dealt with.
I appreciate that.
May I ask a question about that?
Mhm.
I don't want to belabor the point, but just so we have an understanding. What seems to be the cause of the alarms that are false alarms when you're going to Folkways? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Actually, I should have looked at the reports before I came up to say what it is. We have
I
had
just meant
issues.
example.
We've have had issues with storms. We have had issues, the normal issues that you get from people, the number of people that we have there. Although if I compare it to other facilities that might have cooking, They have virtually more than we do with, for instance, the ACTS facilities at Springhouse Estates or Gwinnett Estates. I can get that information. We have that information. I can get that if that's of value.
No, I think we've seen it in the previous report. I think
Okay.
that gave us the context. What you're saying is that it's an increase or a higher rate at Folkways than the other comparable types of settings where people are in a denser location.
Yeah, I'll get that put together.
Okay, so what appears to be a cooking, I don't want to say mishap, but a cooking situation that could trigger an alarm.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Just for our awareness and our understanding, since it was brought to our attention, is there any proactive steps to upgrade what would be, I guess, the base system?
I don't have the answer to that question. I know that as we've had conversations with Al over the years, we know that we are retrofitting the buildings as they turn over because
Mhm.
people are living in them. We can't go in and gut them.
Mhm.
But as we do that, we are putting the systems in. It would take, one of the reasons why we got the rezoning for the Peters track is that kind of influx of value and money into their system as we approach that 50-year anniversary. All of their infrastructure is 50 years old. So part of that planning was for the financing to do upgrades throughout the campus as they become necessary. We're just not there yet in the planning process to kick that off, but that's the kind of resource we would need to do that. That's my understanding. I haven't been part of those conversations recently.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments from the board? Jaworski?
No comment.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you. Have a good night.
You as well.
Thank you.
So now that we have before us the consideration related to this presentation, I think we need to make a motion to instruct our solicitor how we would like to move forward. So included in the board packet is a memo our assistant manager as it relates to what we can do as instructions to our solicitor for the next step. Outlined in the memo articulates all of the waivers that were requested in the engineer letter that was attached. I would just want to add that we would like an updated engineer memo related to the waivers, as well as ensuring accuracy of the trees and the recommendation from the planning commission included in that memo. Are there any additional points wanting to be included from the board? With that, first, you good? I'm assuming he's good. He would have interjected if he wasn't. So with that, I'd like to make a recommendation to authorize the township solicitor to prepare a resolution of the conditional approval based upon the conversations that we've had tonight and the presentation and the additional documentation that we received tonight. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you guys so much. Next up is public comment, citizen comment, questions or concerns. You just come on up and say your name and address.
Jonathan Kalpis, 100 Hillcrest Lane, Lower Gwinnett. I'm a little under the weather, so I have little voice tonight, but I will do the best I can. On February 19th, there was the meeting about the comprehensive plan that was put forth for the township. So I attended the meeting. It was a 2-hour session. I've been looking for kind of the public facing commentary documentation slideshow of that meeting. Has that been published anywhere to the website yet?
I don't know if the actual presentation that was done at that public town hall is available. I know that the comprehensive plan itself is available. I can tell you that March 18th, the comprehensive plan will go before our planning commission. And then our next meeting, March 24th, it'll come before us again. But the presentation that staff put together and presented at that town hall, I don't believe has been placed up on the website, but we can put it up.
Yeah, because I was, when I was looking at some of the information in the comprehensive plan, and, I made a few comments at the session, and both of the breakout sessions about the high density mixed use housing that's proposed for zoning changes in the comprehensive plan or potential zoning changes. And some of those design concepts that you have up by the Giant, currently across from the township building here, and at the one where the BET mixed use, I don't know, 200-300 units is currently proposed that I think is coming back before the planning commission and maybe the board. That was the other parcel. So when I'm looking at all the information that's in the comprehensive plan, it references, an open house, it references so many different responses, but I can't find any of those things either. So I did a right to know request, pretty significant one. I'm sure you're aware of that. That's coming because I can't find any of that information online as points of reference. Sorry, Jamie.
Well, we did have a whole page dedicated to the comp plan. So as those things were occurring, the information was up and then we would update it with new information. We didn't keep everything static on the page.
So you could restore the results of the open house, like a questionnaire or the community surveys that people responded to, and you could.
Yeah, we have the information. It's just not, as we were going through the process, we would advertise for the survey, the different things that we were doing. And then when it was over, we would take it down and put the next update up.
Is there a way that we could put all that back up for the community to have it? As a comparator, Ambler Borough has in copious detail what their community responses look like. They have their surveys out there. They have the open house. Whip Paint goes back over 15 years. I can navigate to the page if you want. I'll show it to you. They have stuff going back to their old comprehensive plan. They have summaries of the open house. So I'm just kind of
Can
curious.
check with our.
I mean, it was probably in that report. I mean, didn't staff present to the board?
All
Yeah,
the
it's a
surveys.
presentation and
There was a
yeah, there's
presentation,
all the
so that's probably in
presentation.
our packets, but I
Yeah.
don't know that it's all.
You're looking for it in one place and
One
Yeah, I mean, I think
document
it's
or-
important for the community. But I mean, it's my reading of this based on community input,
Mhm.
right? People want high density housing in Lower Gwinnett Township. I'm not in that camp, but it seems as though that's the will of the people. So I'm really looking for the results of the survey. The
You are
results of the
looking for
open
the,
house.
yeah, I think what I think
Uh,
we can do is we can have staff try and recreate and add that stuff back to the webpage. I don't think that that's going to be an issue at all. I think we are trying to keep the most up-to-date information available and accessible. Everything's there probably in archives, but you'd have to navigate to find it. We can actually have staff. I don't know if our 2020 comprehensive plan was even digital.
Yeah, it was, we had a
Was it?
link to that.
Did
Yeah.
you?
Mhm.
Look at us.
Yeah.
Just the.
I
final
mean, it's
plan.
old. It's like, when I say a link, it's a link of a PDF
PDF,
plan.
yeah.
We didn't have an electronic plan,
Yeah.
but yeah.
We
I
can,
mean,
we can add
I
those
think the
things back.
surveys, right? I mean, there's bits and pieces of it in the comprehensive plan, right?
Mhm.
So, and if you look on Ambler's website, right, they have it. I have a printout. I can show it to you actually, and they have all the different questions with the responses, and it's broken out. I think they did a pretty nice job on it, and I think Web Paint did a nice job with the history, and they left it up for 15 years. I think it kind of explains how you get from point A to point B. So I think before we kind of embark on, this going back before the planning commission and coming before you guys for an approval vote, that the community knows how the community voted at that point in time. And I think Ambler was very interesting where the amount of comments that were on point to high density housing were few and far between. Yet, as I think I saw last week, that BET community of a couple hundred units is going up next to the train station. So I'm just really kind of curious to see like how Lower Gwinnett compares to what was portrayed in the report. And then I guess part and parcel with that, as we get closer, right, in the, assuming the comprehensive plan goes forth in the manner that it's currently portrayed in the, I guess, the February draft, January draft, whatever one was the subject of the February 19th meeting. you have two communities that will be very directly impacted, right? By virtue of that plan change and then any draft zoning that's going to come out of that. Are you planning to reach out to residents within, I don't know, a 1 mile radius of those affected sites to get direct feedback at this point to say, hey, 4 or 5 year process is unfolded. This is what we have before this goes in. What do you guys think about this? So I'd just be curious on your thoughts about having a more targeted, whether it's a mailing, whether it's signs in the neighborhood, a lot of different outreach to people who are going to be most immediately impacted by it.
We've tried very hard to get the word out about our draft comprehensive plan, but we will continue, I think, to do so. I don't know if you have any suggestions about how else to publicize the.
I think
Sure.
what
One
he,
by the Giant and the one for the BET.
So I think-
Norristown.
and I think we are tried to articulate this on the 19th. I think you're making assumptions, A, that we're going to approve the comprehensive plan. So we can't make that assumption before that actually would transpire. We're actively still gathering feedback, but I think what you, I think we're responding to, or maybe had concerns related to, was a visual that was provided by the county who helped draft this plan, and it's from the County Planning Commission, about what it could or would look like if we did choose to adopt and to go down that pathway. And so that visual, which I think caused a few people to feel concern, does not mean that that change is actually imminent or that that's happening, which would mean that there wouldn't necessarily need to be outreach or a conversation. As we also discussed, I think the 19th, it was the day after the huge announcement around Johnson & Johnson and that potential land development that is going to transpire, which would change a whole host of things. So as we evolve, what this does is create what would be the policy that this board, if adopted, would like to move forward with, but it doesn't necessitate that this is absolutely happening and it's absolutely happening here or here. Now, we do know that, I think we announced on the 9th, the date of that town hall, that the site of Bercadia had recently just had a resubmission. And so that's going to come back before the board. After it comes back probably before the board, it's still going to have to go to the planning commission. At that time, individuals who would be within a certain radius would be contacted and made aware. But in addition to that, we've had public meetings, we've had an open house at the actual site and had conversations. So we're doing our best to be transparent and to be proactive as it relates to reaching out to neighbors and making them aware of what's going on and how that process is going to proceed and what that looks like. So to answer your question, yes, we're going to be open and transparent and engage with the community, but I think that we also have to be cautious and not make assumptions about what's going to actually happen based upon a plan, because it is a plan.
I don't think you need to make assumptions, but I think being transparent and publishing documents that you relied on for an overhaul of this township, I think is something that the community deserves. Quite frankly.
The amount of information we put up about the comp plan as we've been going through the process was extensive. It was basically everything that was given, we put up. We consolidated the pages. We made a new page to make it user-friendly. So we consolidated the comp plan. We put it into a projects plan where we added construction, we added incoming land development and subdivisions. And then we just added a little blurb about the comp plan because we are in this final stage. So we consolidated the pages, but throughout the last few years, the information has been on there.
But it's good feedback to see that you have, I guess, user experience is different than what we're, experiencing as we try to put it together. So we can take that back and staff can review and try and add some of the information back up in an easier accessible way for folks that want to have much more historic data easily and readily available.
Yeah, I mean, it seems as though without the data, right? Like it's someone's characterization in this report. Like if I were anyone sitting up here, whether I'm elected or not, I would want to have that out there just in the efforts of transparency and saying, hey, this is the data that we collected. And I think too, your point's well taken that nothing's approved until it's approved, right? But to Jamie's point, we're how many years down this process now? And the plan has changed. Right, it seems like it's coalescing around us. One of the identified parcels has been the subject of a lot of back and forth between, I think, the board, the planning commission, BET, Bruce Toll. So it seems as though like there's the foundation is there for that. And the fact that the number of responses that were indicated here in the first community survey was 533. And if you plot that against the 12,000 people that roughly that live in Lower Gwinnett Township, it's a pretty small response. If you look at the subsequent touch points, the first open house, there's no metric how many people came. The draft vision statement survey was 87 responses. The second open house, there was no response about how many people came. The draft goals and recommendations survey, there were 24 responses. That's it. So I feel like before you put in a new plan that's going to lay the foundation for a zoning change, I think you owe it to the residents to do everything you can to put them on notice. You know, case in point, I got my semi-annual mailing here this week, and there's nothing in here on page 11 where the comprehensive plan update is about high density housing or mixed use. Unless I don't see it in there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not in here. So I think there are certain things in this community that people respond to. And it's great to say that, you know, the plan does not propose land use changes for any residential neighborhoods, as preservation of our neighborhoods is another key focus area. It's one thing to say that, but it's also something to not say something about what you're doing, right? I think you would get a lot more public feedback if you just say the thing. And I don't think that's readily available in some of the communications that I've seen and kind of how it's been largely my characterization kind of buried in the draft comprehensive plan. So thanks.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Next up, we have a presentation on our finance report by our finance director, Haldeman.
Okay, so I just wanted to let you know that I finished up basically closing the year end and getting everything done and giving it to our auditors to do the audit. So what I'm presenting is what I've completed, but it might change if they come up with anything and they have to do a journal entry or anything like that. That's how I describe in the memo that we basically keep our books open. And that's why it sort of takes so long. So we have to usually keep everything open till about the middle of February before I start to close, so we can get all of the invoices in and all of the revenues in that are 425 that come in 26. We hit AP and AR, accounts payable and accounts receivable to account for those, but that they're all put in the year. And that way, when you're looking at 2025, you're actually looking at everything that really transpired, even if we didn't receive the revenue till later, I've accounted for it. I did want to just state that overall, 2025 was really a good year for Lower Gwinnett Township. I'm going to kind of go through it the way I did when I did my budget presentation, and I'm grouping the operating funds together, the sewer funds, and then the capital funds, just to kind of give you an overall presentation. I did note everything in the memo that I gave you because I wasn't sure if I'd have the time to present this evening, but I just kind of wanted to go through it. So if we first look at the general operating funds, we had, as I said in the memo, a surplus of $1.6 million before a discretionary transfer of $750,000. So our overall surplus was $860,000. We had budgeted for a surplus of $429,000 after a $500 discretionary transfer. Basically, that 860 is after a $750,000 discretionary transfer. If you remember, we collected more in business privilege tax from prior years. We came to the board and asked if I could make that transfer additionally of the 250, and we did. So that's how we kind of account for that. I also want to state that that surplus is after we paid the debt service on the $5 million bond issuance. So I think that's important for you to keep in mind. Basically, our revenues, we had a very good year and our surplus was higher because our general fund operating revenues were much higher than budget. And most of this occurred from what I call the Act 511, which is your earned income tax, business privilege, mercantile, and local services. When we do that budget, I reach out to Berkheimer and he gives me, James there, he's wonderful. He gives me sort of a budgeted amount of where he thinks we're going to be and what we collect. Mimi and I review that together, and for revenues, we go on the conservative side. We pick the lower side of that, but we did very well. The business privilege tax was from prior years, but we also collected more in the earned income tax, which really helped out the entire situation. And I talked to you guys about that before. With regards to the general fund expenditures, so our expenditures were over budget by about $84,000. Now, each line item, one might be a little bit over, one might be under, but I tried to hone in on what was the big thing that caused that overage, and it was our technology. So if you remember, we got rid of the servers, we moved to the cloud. And as we moved each department to the cloud, certain different things happened. I know I ended up having to pay for the accounting software to move up. There were 2 payments that had to occur in 25, and now it would just be one moving forward because we tried to transfer in 24 and it sort of came together there. Also, when we went to the cloud, we have different levels of Microsoft Office licenses. Some get for your email, some people need it for more work like Excel, Word. When we moved to the cloud, everybody that didn't have the highest sort of Microsoft Office license had to get upgraded to that. We were sort of unaware of that. And also, when we moved the police department, they had to go to a different sort of cloud. That we put the PD in their name, okay, to org because it's more secure. So it's sort of like a government type cloud. So we had to move that, and we didn't really anticipate that on top of everything. So we were over on our technology, but other than that, with the operating funds, everything else kind of came in good, and we ended up with a much larger surplus. If I move on then to, unless you guys have any questions?
No.
Move on to the sewer. So the sewer operating fund had a surplus of 464,000, and we had only budgeted for 205,000. So the reason for that change was we had about $90,000 more in interest income that hit that fund from the funds that were in there. And also we were under budget in what we paid for the sewer treatment that we paid to Ambler to treat the sewage by about 125,000. And there were no discretionary transfers between. Sometimes we take extra funds from the operating and go to the capital if we're doing something on sewer capital, or vice versa, but we didn't have any of that. So that was good. I do want to bring up to you, which is something I never give you in your reports prior to this, was basically how we are sitting with our sewer accounts receivable in the operating. So I just kind of wanted to give you an idea that, so our accounts receivable at December 31st, people haven't paid their sewer bills yet, was about $108,000. And of that 108,000, 78,000 was over 120 days. Okay, which normally is a problem. So of that 78,000, 72,000 are from 9 residential customers. They own a well. Okay, so we bill sewer based on water usage, and we can't do that if you have a well. So we charge $139 and some change every quarter for anyone who has a well. But if they don't pay their bill, we can't shut off their water. That's normally what we do. We shut off someone's water. They end up, they make a payment plan. We work with them, you know what I mean, to come through, but we can't with them. So those 9 residential customers account for about the 72,000. We have 3 that are like over $15,000 each because they've never.
They can make a determination like, I'm going to always have my water. I'm just never going to pay this.
Since I can't shut off their water because they have well water, they just don't pay it. Now, that amount will include interest and penalty as we go, so it accrues. And then in November, what we do is we do a lien against those houses. And there's 4 or 5 on there where we've just had them every year because they're not paying. But we do have a lien against their property, so we have that. We have some other individuals that have like left the house and it might be abandoned for a little bit, so they don't pay the sewer until it's bought. Like some of that goes into account. We also have, and I don't know if you guys know, you probably, but some of our customers choose to have bypass meters because they don't want to be charged for sewer based on water usage if they're watering their lawn, they're filling their pool, those types of things. So we allow something called a bypass meter. A bypass meter kind of accounts for that water that's not going into the sewer system. We get that read and we give that credit once a year in January. So there's about $6,000 that's over 120 days old because those individuals might just pay the minimum until they get the credit in January, and then that credit carries forward, and that's sort of how they pay their bill. So it's older, but that's because there's a very large credit coming, and those have always seemed to be collectible.
But how do you get on this bypass meter?
So you get on it if your water usage even would allow for a bypass
Right.
meter, like if you have landscaping or you have a pool. And what you do is you call up here and Linda, who handles that here, says, yes, this is the type of bypass meter. Yes, you can get it. And then they pay and they install it so that they have it. So the
Gotcha.
customer themselves pays for it.
And someone can certify that they're using that to fill their pool, not to dump it in the street, I guess.
Yes,
Right.
well, the way that water meter goes, because it's not going into the sewer system and it's going into the pool, that's how they account for it. They take
Gotcha.
a
It's
reading
in
off
the
of that, and they
particular-
can see that, right?
I see.
Okay, so,
Cool. Learn something new every day.
yeah, I know. That's how it goes. Yes. So other than those 9 residential customers, they're not commercial customers. Everything else is good and running, and we're collecting it, and we're not having any issues or anything like that. Just because I've never reported on that before, and I just wanted
Yeah.
to kind of let you guys know we are looking at it.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then, before I get into the capital funds, I do want to bring to your attention that for 2025, our interest income across all of our funds totaled $1,331,000, which is very good. 216,000 of that is from the bond proceeds, which goes right in with the 5 million that we borrowed. It's not subject to arbitrage, so we don't have to give any of that back. Okay. And, which is very good. And then the balance, which is 1.1 million, is just from all of our reserves that we have in our other funds. And in January, the interest rates were at Citadel 3.16, and Pliget was between on the class 3.55%, and the prime was 3.8%. So we still are doing really well, and I am trying to move the monies between the different banks and the class and the prime to try to be as advantageous as I can for the interest income. Then there's one thing new that I'm showing. So in the packet, there were 2 things that I included in this packet that aren't in all of your packets. And that's the summary of all funds. And I put this in here. I know Mimi really likes this schedule because this shows each fund. It shows the revenue, the expenditures, and the surplus before discretionary transfers. So you can kind of see where we actually came in at before we started moving money to the capital funds or whatnot and things like that. And then it showed you where I think we're going to come in for our ending fund balance, unless of course there's some journal entries from the outside accountants. So I wanted to go through that. And then the last thing that I wanted to show you in this presentation, because you have the year-to-date report, was that here, and that is what I call the projects, the equipment, and the construction in progress. I call CIP. In fund accounting for a government, all of our expenditures are budgeted for, and they're all expensed. So when you see the capital funds, you see the revenues, if there's grant monies or interest coming in, and then you see the monies that we've expensed out for projects or equipment that we've purchased. But a lot of times those will span across time, or when you look at a certain account, it's got lots of different equipment in it. So at the end of the year, I have to go through all those capital accounts, and I pull every invoice and I kind of pull them together so I can give to the auditors, which is in our audited financial statement, basically a list of our assets, because that's what we have to do. We have to get our assets so they know what they are. And I just wanted to review with you the assets that we actually put in place in 2025 so that you kind of understood where the money was going in the capital funds. So this year we did a fire system replacement in the building, and that total cost was $62,000. It's on a chart in there. I'm kind of rounding. We also put a roof on the building here that was split between the capital reserve and the sewer fund. And that total cost was $164,000. We had budgeted for and did a shed with a roll-up door for $11,000. We got tasers for the police officers, and that was $19,025. We got suppressors and guns also, which were $12,028. We got a new Chevy Tahoe for the police with fit out, which was $85,000. And we got a lawnmower and with a power rake attachment, and that total was $21,000. We purchased that. For the projects that we completed in 25, we did the Bethlehem Pike Dagger Road mast arm, which was a total of $102,000. We spent $91,000 this year, but we had spent $11,000 at the end of last year for that. So that's where that combination comes in. The sidewalk trail was some sidewalk trail plans that we had done. The Texaco lot improvements, we completed that, and that was a little over $37,000. The Penland Woods HVAC, we replaced that system. That was $82,000. And we also did some inflow and infiltration on the sewer lines for $144,000 and a sewer pump for $10,000. So that was close to $800,000 that between the equipment and the projects that we completed in 25. And then if we go to the next one, and Jamie, that's the one that I sent you so you could see them together.
Okay.
I kind of color coded this. So what I want to show you here is these are the projects in progress, what I call CIP, construction in progress. We have a lot of projects that span over many years, and I want to show you guys what we actually spend on the total project when we complete it. So I'm going to present this every year so that you can see what we're spending it on. But the projects in progress in 25 is the old Bethlehem Pike culvert. We spent $33,000 this year on that. We spent $95,000 in previous years. So we're holding in construction in progress. The auditor's not going to classify it as an asset until we're complete, but it's $128,000. So Ingersoll Park Phase 2, I know we've done a lot of work on that. We spent $648,000 this year on that.
And Melinda, sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
does that take into account the monies that we received from grant funding?
So
That's what I was
on the
gonna say,
left
yeah.
of This. So what I tried to do here is, you've seen this before. Mimi has put together these grants. I took the snippet out here and I color coded it. So if you look at the color coding or the numeral, you can see the grant amount. The amount that's from 5 and above, those grants have been awarded. That doesn't mean we got them in 25. We didn't get a lot in 25, but they were awarded, okay? So if you look at that compared to where we are in the CIP, in the grant schedule 2, there's that column total cost. So you can kind of get an idea of what we're going to spend on the project if it comes within budget of what we're planning on spending. So we have this CIP in progress, like the Welsh Road and Darden signal, Trewellen and Penland traffic signal, Penland Station Trail, the Public Works Facility, which is real big. We also did, which doesn't have a grant here, is the road paving that wasn't part of the liquid fuels fund. That's only $35,000. We had spent some money in there, but we didn't get the project done, as you know, and we're going to collapse that in with 26 and do that at the same time.
So can I just make sense of this in my mind, just because I'm going back between two slides? So if we look at number 1, Old Bethlehem Pike Culvert, we got $786,000 in grant monies from the LSA.
We were awarded. We didn't get
Awarded,
it.
we didn't get it. The total cost of the project is $925. And so then I go back to the previous slide, and the CIP for 2025 is $33,000, and previous years $95,000. So the total cost to us is 128,405.
So far.
So far.
that
So
we've
it could
spent.
go,
And that's why I put it together on that slide.
okay, so it could go up.
It's-
and we
it's
don't
good, but
actually-
We're not done.
Yes.
That's why it's in construction and progress. The slide before are the ones that we completed. Here, these projects are still in progress and I'm accumulating
that's
the
what I- yeah,
cost every
okay.
year. Okay,
Yeah.
and I'm just gonna show you what the total cost is because I think that when you cross over years, you may think that you're spending a certain amount that you had planned on, but you never know what the final amount is. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna kind of tell you what that is. Okay, so that we know that.
I appreciate that.
And Melinda, these are numbers as of December 31st, 2025.
Yes. Yes. And I've included in it the previous year's CIP so that you could see that.
Okay.
So we also have the Penn Ambler Park Pollinator Garden. That is relatively done. I kept it open. I can close that. Remember Penn Ambler Pollinator and the Oxford, we got a $6,000 grant for that. That's not shown over here. That gets split between the two. We haven't finished Oxford, but we finished.
No, we finished.
Oh, we finished both. Yeah, Oxford was finished before and then Penn Ambler, yes. So that'll be done. So I just kind of wanted to give you a feel. So basically we have construction in progress of $4.2 million that's sitting out there. Okay, and we're going to be adding to that cost as we finish these projects. But next year, when I come here and I sit in front of you, you'll see this and either we have finished it or I'll continue on adding to it so that you can see. Because at the end, I want you to know how much you spent on Ingersoll Park Phase 2.
Yeah.
Is
Okay.
what we had talked about or things like that.
Mhm.
And then you can see here the grant amounts. The Public Works, which is 6 in the purple below, those are applications submitted. We weren't awarded those grants. The ones above we were, just so that you know how to read that chart. But I
Oh.
just thought it was good for you to kind of get a feel for, yeah, we spent this much money, but we plan on getting this much more in. And I think it's a good way to look at that.
Thank you so
Yeah, it is
much.
really
This
helpful.
is really helpful. And I appreciate that.
So that's all I kind of wanted to do. I think the memo spells it out. You have the fund reporting in there, the year-to-date reports. I just kind of wanted to give you an overview. And overall, if you don't go into detail of each line item, I'm going to say that we did very well. We came in over budget on our revenues, almost even with our expenditures. We have a bigger surplus and we got to move more into the capital reserve funds. So everything there looks really good. There was nothing that really stuck out as a problem in any way.
Awesome.
And the grant report for capital projects is really, it says as of January 30th, so it doesn't account for any grants that we plan to maybe add in 2026. Is that accurate?
Well, some of them are.
I
some
see
of
at the
them
very,
are-
very bottom, it says plan grant applications, but I'm looking at it and there's one that I'm looking to see and I don't think it's on here. So I'm
If-
just,
Yeah, if you look at, I think if we're planning to go again in the future and we've already submitted a grant, it's up. Like, if you look at Public Works, it has.
no, the
awarded,
very, very,
submitted,
very
and
bottom
then-
where it says plan grant applications, I see 3, but I know that we're actually considering another one.
If you look at Ingersoll Park Phase 3.
Yeah, it says future.
Then LSA, probably gonna apply for another one in April.
That's what I would, okay. Okay.
Yeah, this is a little snippet out of the bigger plan, because I didn't want to, it'd be a little overwhelming. And I kind of wanted to color code it so you could kind of see what had a grant that I was reporting on, so you could see what we were looking at. If we start another project, whatever, we get another grant, then I would expand on this so that you could see it. But I think it's helpful to know, hey, this is how much we are spending on the projects. These are the grants we're getting. And then if I give you the cumulative total when it's completed, it'll give you an idea of where we stand if we came in budget or whatnot.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, this is really helpful, Melinda. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
No, but this is awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melinda.
Did anybody have any additional questions? No, anything from the public? Thank you.
One, before Jamie, don't leave that page. When you're gonna see in a minute, we're asking for authorization to submit the Green Light Go grant.
All it on there.
Those numbers are up. These numbers on the screen right now are not updated to match with that because that was from January. We do have updated numbers from that. So
That's what I meant when I said this is of January 30th. It might be different now. Okay.
And we haven't heard on the LSA that was submitted back in the fall, right? When are we going to hear about that?
Public Works facility, but not for Well, I guess for,
Oxford?
I mean, I assume that means for we resubmitted, didn't we, for, where am I?
But the LSA grant award was from the year prior.
Yeah.
And then we resubmitted for both because we hadn't gotten the award announcements yet.
So
And
I
they still
assumed
haven't.
last year's Oxford Park, we never got anything about that. It was
They
not
got,
awarded.
the analyst did ask us for additional information for Oxford. And I think he might have said like a September announcement.
Okay.
Which would essentially be for the most recent.
Yeah,
application,
right.
Not the one before that. So most recent being November 2025.
Right. We assume that one's not being funded. Okay.
Despite the fact that this is a little bit outdated, meaning it's a month or two out, is this able to be just shared on our website so that public could see this if they were interested? Is there a space? Do we have a dedicated space to financials?
Oh, yeah, she is.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it gets, unless you're looking at the meeting to find it later, we
Yeah,
can
it's in
put
the
it on
board
our
packet.
finance website, on the finance page.
Okay. I know it's in the
Website.
board packet, and if anybody
Mhm.
knows the meeting, they could find it, but just, I think it's
It's
helpful.
been
to
a
see.
little hectic of late, but one of the things on my list is to get that big board out there updated too. So
Mm.
Okay.
that's going to take a little bit, but April-ish,
Thank you.
which is actually sooner than I think it is.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
May-ish.
I appreciate tremendously, Melinda, for you making it so user-friendly and accessible for all the residents to be able to follow what's going on. So thank you. Next up on our agenda is the consideration to authorize our township manager to engage in a contract with Gilmore Association for civil engineering services needed for the redesign of our new public works building. Calling up John to speak to this.
Good evening. So this is the result of our most recent RFP related to the Public Works Garage. We did this process a little differently than some of the others, and it actually went really well. So Boyle Construction is the construction managers for the project. I worked with them to come up with an RFP, got it out to a lot of different firms, and we had a pretty tremendous response actually of 12 different firms coming and saying they wanted the job. When the responses came in, we actually had Boyle receive them all. They did their own analysis of the responses and then reported back to us without any of our feedback. So we could kind of hear their objective view and then we could look back on it. They essentially analyzed on 2 points. One was the completeness of the proposals to say how well they were responding to what we're actually asking for. And then they secondly looked at cost. The cost one became a little more complicated because all the firms responded to the core services we asked for in the RFP. But a lot of engineering firms also started saying, well, later in the process, you might also need service A and B and C. And they were a little inconsistent. So some firms were adding A, B, and C, some were adding D, E, and A. And so Boyle kind of reached back out to get them on the same playing field. So they first filtered it down. Here are the top 5 based on the responses and completeness that we think are going to be the best fit. Now here's the price for them, and we could look at them across each other. The range of prices was a lot bigger range than I was expecting. For just the core portion, it went from about 156,000 to 488,000. I mean, that's a pretty big range. And then when we started adding the other services back in, so that assuming we would need everything, which we probably won't need quite all of that, it was ranging from 218 to almost $720,000. So after looking at that all, Boyle gave their independent recommendation before we gave any feedback to it, and they recommended awarding it to Gilmore Associates. Their proposal came out as the top for the most complete, and their price for the core was very close to low end. And when you added in the additional services, they were the lowest on the core end, actually. We also happen to know that they are very familiar with this project from their history with the township. And they have a really great experience working with agencies like the Montgomery County Conservation District. So staff does agree with Boyle's recommendation. We ask that the board considering awarding it to Gilmore Associates.
We are keeping Gilmore busy enough.
I think it's, I'm just very
That's awesome.
shocked at the range of, well, I'm happy to hear that we got 12 proposals so that we did have a good, I guess, variety to get a range from, but I'm really kind of shocked at the base range and then the additional range also. It seems, I don't know, concerning on many levels.
Did they do it differently, like by hour versus, like, how did the different engineering firms break it up?
Most didn't give a breakdown of that it was going to be X number of hours. It was mostly just for this phase, it was going to be this much.
Gotcha.
So we looked at a couple different assumptions that we think some people assumed that things like the land development process would be shorter or longer and things like that. But in the end, they were still bidding on the same RFP, the same amount of services that were in there. There was also a lot of questions that came in for this one. I think we had 40 or 50 questions that came in for the RFP. So there's a lot of clarification going into it as well. So we're confident there was a clear process. for
Yeah,
everybody,
that's
though.
great. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thanks
pulling
for all
all
the
this
time
together
looking
and
at
doing
this.
all of this work. Are there any questions from the board?
No.
Any questions from the public? Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve, to authorize the township manager to sign a contract for the site civil engineering services for the new public works facility with Gilmore and Associates. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the terms are going to be finalized to the satisfaction of the township's solicitor.
Just one postscript to that. We've been doing a lot of RFPs in the past year. This was far and away the most complicated one. So I first want to thank John for persevering with all of that and putting a lot of work and translations into that. And also to say how pleased I think he and I both are with Boyle. They were a huge help with this. So they've really been a great addition here as part of the design team for the Public Works facility. It was very helpful.
That's great to hear.
So
Thank you, John.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thanks,
Boyle.
Jen.
glad we'll see you around still a little bit here, Jim.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Gilmore.
Tell your family we're sorry.
Next up is consideration. Hold on one second. Next up is consideration for Green Light Go grant application for Bethlehem Pike and Tennis Avenue. Included in the board packet is a memorandum from our assistant township manager outlining the Green Light Go program is now open. Applications are due on the 31st. They're making a recommendation that we authorize staff to submit a grant in the amount of $311,760 and approval of the required match funds, which will be an amount of $77,940. Included in the board packet is this memo, and it articulates the application as well as the match dollars. Are there any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to authorize staff to submit a PennDOT Green Light Go grant application in the amount of $311,760 to modernize the staff traffic signal at Bethlehem Pike and Tennis Avenue with a funding commitment letter in the amount of $77,940. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up is the consideration of a donation to the Wissahickon High School Outdoor Education Club for pollinator gardens. Included in the board packet is a memorandum from our program director articulating that the members of the Lower Gwinnett Environmental Advisory Council, or EIC, would like to discuss that donation of $500 to the Wissahickon High School Outdoor Education Club at their March 11th meeting, if the board will authorize this donation. I think that this is something that we have done in the past. I think we did it as recently as last year. It is for the supplies needed to establish a new pollinator garden at the school's main entrance. Are there any questions from the board?
No.
Questions from the public? Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to authorize a $500 donation to the Wissahickon High School Outdoor Education Club for the pollinator gardens to be ratified by the EAC. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up is the consideration of a change order included in our board packet as a memorandum. I'm sorry, my computer is lagging despite our technological upgrades. Included in the board packet is a change order submitted by our township engineer related to the Ingersoll Park improvements. I'm going to turn it over to our township engineer.
Thank you. So as the construction's been progressing out there, Fred and I have been participating in weekly site meetings with the contractor Gorski, their subcontractors, and more recently, some representatives from the Little League. And out of those weekly construction meetings, we've identified two things that were not in the original contract that we think makes sense to do now. Now that the concrete is surrounding the snack stand, there is a 1 foot gap between the backstop and the concrete surround that like presents a low area. And so there's like a chance that there could be water ponding there in the future. We can put in a French drain in that area and then tie it into the drainage system for the park. And if we get it under the ground now and then we pave on top of it, there would be no need to trench through the asphalt in the future. And then the the audio consultant for the Little League was out at one of these site meetings a couple weeks ago. And we were looking at places where they want to put the speaker system and mount the speakers to the poles that we had installed as part of the netting. And to do that, there need to be some additional underground conduit runs and junction boxes to make sure that the speaker wire is below grade and doesn't need to be, hung on the fence or any kind of trenching. So we asked Gorski's work contractor to give a price for those two changes, and they came back with $16,101, and we've evaluated it, and I'm recommending that the contract be increased by that amount.
What's the breakdown of the prices, Jim, for the two different additions?
They are pretty much, it's pretty much split down the middle.
And has anyone spoken with the Little League about contributing anything towards this?
I have not had that conversation.
We still have grant money to use for this project, right?
Yes, this would not, this could be paid for out of the grant money that you have.
If we did not install the French drain now, but we waited till after, how much increase would that be in cost, just out of curiosity?
It'd be a pretty probably double, because you would have to saw cut the pavement, and then you wouldn't want to have like a 2 foot 18-inch wide sort of patch. So you would end up milling out each side to try to present a better aesthetic. So it really does make sense to do that one now, for sure.
I think it makes sense to do both now. I mean, my only question is when do we need to do this for Gorski to do the work before they finish the project?
I would recommend that you vote tonight.
Opening.
So no opportunity to discuss with the Little League any contribution?
Yeah, so what we're working on right now is a situation where the work would be to a point where the Little League would be able to get in and start having their AV person there the Monday, the 16th, I think. So literally next Monday. So
sorry, Jim, go ahead.
So that they have time to, prepare for the first game is April 4th. I was previously under the wrong assumption that the first game was opening day, but apparently there is a game before opening day.
What day, do you know what day opening day is? Like
Opening day is the 11th,
Oh,
but the first game is the 4th, I believe.
okay.
And they
You can never obviously anticipate change orders, but do you feel like this will be the last of it?
I feel like this would be the last of it. And I also, it's my opinion that Gorski has been very good with this throughout the process, where we have asked for a slight change here, an additional switch here, and there's been no discussion of change orders, and they provided those additions without. So in consideration of that, I feel like this is it.
Any additional questions from the board? Any questions from the public? You have to come up, state your name and address.
Still Jonathan Kalpa, still at 100 Hillcrest Lane. Just to respond to Mr. Twersky, I volunteered for the Little League for many years. I still do it. I think my first practice is next week, so it's coming pretty fast. I find it a little bit ironic that we're going to ask for $8,000 of a $16,000 bill, but we're going to put in a $30 million public works garage. So the Little League has contributed $60,000 of registration money. I think they were very instrumental in securing this grant. So I think the board should consider that and pay the $16,000 invoice. Thank you.
Any additional questions or concerns from the public? Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve the change order in the amount of $16,101 to install additional conduit and draining improvements to the Ingersoll Park Phase 2 project. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up, we have consideration to authorize staff to send an emergency service letter. Are there any questions from the board? Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to direct staff. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Is anyone abstaining?
No, I in favor.
I didn't say it
any-
loud.
No, you didn't
Okay.
say anything.
Aye.
Tversky.
Aye.
There it is. Thank you so much. Next up, we have an invoice report for March 10th, 2026. Are there any questions from the board? Any comments or changes? Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve the invoice report for March 10th, 2026. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There it is. Next up is the minutes of the Board of Supervisor meeting that was held February 24th, 2026. Any questions from the board related to those minutes? Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Come on. Who did it?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Staff updates. Nothing? Okay. Supervisor liaison reports are included in the board packet. I think it was related to our investment committee, if I'm not mistaken. Any questions or concerns can be directed to those supervisors. Supervisor comments. Andrea?
I have no comment.
Okay. Janine?
Great night, everybody.
Jimmy?
I guess to one, last Sunday, one of the PA state troopers, was unfortunately killed while on duty. Just, made me think and about our officers and just kind of what they do for us. So just to give a prayer and thought to them and, you too, just that all of us up here really are very grateful for the officers locally, just let them know that. And secondly, just the staff, we always say that you guys do great things. Melinda, you are able to translate the numbers to something simple that we can understand. And we appreciate that. And again, the interest, you went from, $300,000, the township had an interest and you increased it to 1.3 million. So it's just amazing. Thank you. And John, the complexity of the site civil engineering RFPs, it just, you were able to break that down and explain it to us in a way that we could also understand. So just really thank you. It just represents how all of you guys work. So thank you. And we're all very grateful for you guys.
We all agree. Jimmy. Michael?
Really? That's what I get when I'm not there? No, I don't have any comments.
And just echoing everything that Jimmy shared, we thank you guys all for your help and your dedication and honestly seeing those 12 submissions, seeing what you're able to take from the finance perspective, not downplaying what anyone is doing. We greatly appreciate all the staff tremendously. With that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.